Hello, and welcome to another edition of your Balkanweek. In the news around the world this week is the story of the indictment and arraignment of one former president, Donald Trump of the United States of America, but he is not the only former president being tried. Another trial beginning this week is the trial for war crimes violations, gross violations of international humanitarian law, and the person charged is former President Hashim Thaçi of Kosovo. So I want to tell you a little bit about this case and what to expect. First of all, the government of Kosovo has agreed to set up a tribunal to try, a special court to try, charges of war crimes committed during the conflict in Kosovo in 1998 and 1999. Thaçi is one of the people charged. He was a military commander of the Kosovo Liberation Army. He is charged with abuses committed not only against ethnic Serbs in Kosovo during the conflict, but also against Albanians, people who were suspected of being collaborators with Serbia that was controlling Kosovo as it fought for independence, and people who were not supporters of the Kosovo Liberation Army. So these are the crimes that he is charged with. What is going to happen in this case? Well, whether he gets convicted or not depends on a couple of things. One of the things that it depends on is whether the prosecution is able to persuade the judges that Thaçi operated in the Kosovo Liberation Army with an operational chain of command, one in which he could give orders that would be carried out on the ground, and one in which what's happened on the ground depended on the orders that he gave. This is something that prosecutors have not been successful in showing in previous trials related to crimes committed in Kosovo. And it's not because the Kosovo Liberation Army didn't commit crimes, but it's for a couple of reasons. One of them is that the group being charged with crimes is also a group holding political power. So they were able to manipulate evidence, to intimidate witnesses, to control the conduct of trials in ways that undermine fair trials. The other reason is that a lot of the evidence that the prosecution had was not good evidence. Prosecution in these cases relied especially very heavily on evidence collected by military prosecutors in Serbia who, let's put it briefly, were not very good at their job. They produced unsystematic and unreliable evidence. Thaçi also has good chances because he is defended by a group of lawyers who are experienced in this type of jurisprudence. It's an interesting team. They're people with experience in the tribunal. They're people with experience as political appointees in countries like the United States. So one thing that they all have in common is that they're politically connected lawyers, and this means they're going to be making the legal arguments, especially about potential weaknesses in the evidence regarding chain of command, but especially they're going to be trying to persuade judges about possible negative political consequences of a decision to convict, and previous records from the tribunal suggest to us that international courts are surprisingly open to this type of argument. So there's a good chance that what happens in this trial is going to be deeply unsatisfying from the point of view of justice, deeply unsatisfying from the point of view of telling the truth about the conflict that happened, and certainly deeply unsatisfying in terms of addressing the need of victims. And this is a problem in this case, but it's a problem more generally. And look, this is one of the reasons why you saw over the last 10-15 years more intense citizen engagement in processes of truth-telling, of fact-finding, of dialogue, of meeting, and what broadly goes under, although many people don't like the word, reconciliation. It's because early on, from the founding of the International Criminal Tribunal on through the founding of this special chamber for Kosovo, the insistence has been that the truth-telling should go through channels of legal criminal justice. And this is a channel that is proven to be not well suited to the task of encouraging dialogue, of making peace and encouraging understanding for a number of reasons. It's limited, it's adversarial, it depends on the cooperation of states, it excludes the institutions like education, religion, and culture that are most important. So a lot of alternative initiatives have been created. One of the largest of them was unfortunately unsuccessful, and this was the RECOM initiative for a regional commission for establishment of facts related to the conflict. But let me tell you something about the RECOM initiative. They began their campaign to collect 1 million signatures from citizens in the region to ask governments to cooperate in establishing the commission. They didn't get 1 million signatures. They got 400,000. And there are places where they did badly. They did badly because people in the countries thought that the story of the war wasn't really their story, like in Slovenia and Macedonia. They did badly in places where the timing or the structure of the campaign was controversial, like in Croatia and in Bosnia and Herzegovina. In fact, most of the signatures that the RECOM Commission got, their 400,000 signatures, came from Serbia and Kosovo. And this tells you, unfortunately, there's not likely to be a commission because they didn't get enough signatures. But another thing that it tells you is that in Serbia and Kosovo, there is an intense interest among citizens in hearing one another's story and understanding what happened and getting at the truth. There's probably a little bit of resistance to official sources, and these kinds of legal events that then create staged performances of sentiment that is exclusive to one side tend to stand in the way of that. And so we have one more case indicating, is it progress that there is indictment of the former President Thaçi or of any former official who might reasonably be suspected of crimes? Yes, there is. Is this all that can and needs to be done? No, it is not. And we really need to look at alternative ways of telling truth, engagement of institutions, engagement of citizens on the ground, on the needs and desires of citizens and of victims and of fora other than criminal courts for trying to establish the truth.